Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mount Tammany Ridge channel. I told you guys I'd bring you along for this little project here, and so I'm beginning to take this bucket off the excavator, and with the intentions of putting that quick coupler on. We are not going to see the install of the quick coupler on this video, however, just because I know the pins for the quick coupler are about 5 millimeters too large in diameter. So here I am showing you the fact that the bead of weld that the other guy had run around these pin bosses actually welded that bolt in. I was hoping it was going to knock out, but not so much luck for me. So to get around this matter, I'm cutting the probably the first, I'd say, less than quarter-inch of these pin bosses off the ears here, and the goal is to get behind the welds and free up the end of the pin so that I can slide these pins out through those pin bosses. It was a bit tight. It was a bit tight getting in there. The cutoff wheel that I have on the grinder now was actually like the perfect size, because if I tried to start with a new one, I wouldn't have had enough room to fit in there. As it is, it was almost not going to fit in there, even with this partially used one. So it took a little bit of figuring, and I wasn't going to be able to cut straight through the boss and the pin from top to bottom, so I just kind of had to cut and reposition and take little pieces off at a time. But in the end, it all worked out fine. So the quick coupler that I'm putting on the machine it's a Deere style wedge system, and it's a manual quick coupler. You got a bolt in the back, and you've got to undo it and redo it, put it back in to tighten it back up every time you switch an implement. But it sure is a heck of a lot better than not being able to switch your bucket out at all. And this particular coupler is actually a Kubota coupler. There's a serial number plate on it. It says Kubota, and so I guess there must have been an option to get a coupler manufactured through them to accommodate anybody who might have a bunch of Deere implements from a previous machine, and they don't want to obviously get rid of them. So thought that was pretty cool. However, it is not a direct swap over to a Deere. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of figuring on bushings for this thing, because they're 40 millimeter pins for the quick coupler, and the pins that are in the Deere, I believe, are 35 millimeters. So I'm about 5 millimeter off. The length of the pins works out great. The distance between the ears and the measurement between the ears and the measurement of the dipper, where the pin goes through the dipper, is right on. And also with the H-length dimensions turned out to work out great as well. And I'm gonna need to use minimal amount of shims, which is awesome. So we just got to get over this hurdle with these pins. The diameter of the pin, like I said, was 40 millimeter, and the OD, the outside diameter of the bushing itself, is 45, which is kind of hard to find. I'm trying to find bushings that are a 40 millimeter inside diameter and a 45 outside, and I haven't really come across any yet. I might have to see if I can get a local machinist somewhere to maybe take some new bushings and throw them on the lathe to to maybe turn down, well, I should say hone out the inside of the bushing. Maybe we can get a 45 millimeter OD bushing and mill it, or I should say turn it on the lathe and hone out the inside to a 40. So we'll see. So as you can see, it's pretty tight. I'm trying to get in between all these other components, and I really didn't want to take all this stuff off. I'm limited on time, and just trying to get this thing off of here. Originally, I was actually going to see if I could just grind the welds off on the other side and maybe cut these sides off like I am now and just knock the pins out and do minimal cutting to the ears on the bucket. But the more I was looking at it, the more I realized this was really going to be the only way I could do it the way I'm doing it here. And it worked out pretty good. I wasn't really sure if that bolt was gonna come out very easily. I had a feeling that the weld had penetrated deep enough on this one where that pin was gonna be a real problem, but thankfully it came out. And now we're getting ready to fire up the old plasma cutter. This thing does pretty good. It's just a Harbor Freight deal. And I'd say this is probably, I don't know, half-inch plate somewhere in there. It cut through it. It was pretty much everything it had. I did have some problems. I had a good ground. Everything was working fine. I think my air pressure was a little low. And it ended up buggering up the electric tip. I ended up having to walk away and pull out the old wrench and get that new electrode fit in so it can fit on the cap at the end. And, after that, it finally did cut through. But you can see here I'm having trouble keeping the connectivity. I'm trying all kinds of stuff, trying to blow off some of the material on the back, and if you don't have enough air pressure, or say your air pressure is continually declining, which is expected when you're using air from an air compressor. But if it seems to drop off rapidly, the plasma cutter knows it, and it won't cut right. So you end up having your slag back up on you and kind of blow your sparks and molten metal right back at you. So you can see by looking at the sparks when I engage the trigger on the plasma cutter, the sparks are kind of lofting upward. I'm aiming the gun straight in, but the sparks are kind of going off on an upward angle, and that's an indication that the metal furthest away from the electrode is blowing back. It's not really blowing out like it should. So, but all in all, once I got the air pressure straightened out and new electrode and a new cap on it, you could see it start cutting much better here. I was able to be very consistent. Now this is sped up. What you're seeing is sped up for sure. This is I think 2.5 times speed. It definitely did not go that quick, which does not appear like it's going quick at all to begin with. So I didn't want to speed it up too much. I didn't want it to be completely unrealistic. There's a lot of time-lapse stuff in my videos as it is. And you can see I'm going around with my chisel and my hammer, knocking off all the slag on the back side of the cut. Otherwise, it's, you know, kind of all stuck together, and you can't knock it apart. It's almost like having a weld on the back, basically. I was really surprised when I started dragging the plasma cutter along the bottom of this pin boss that it was cutting as well as it was. Reason being because my thinking is the slag as it's produced with the heat from the plasma. You know, I was thinking that the gravity would be pulling the slag down into the path of the torch and basically putting it out like, you know, water on a match. And really, for the most part, that really didn't seem to be the case. However, when I did go up to the top side of the bucket ear and start cutting down, I seemed to kind of have an intermittent connection. So I thought that was kind of weird. Of course, when I started looking at it a little closer, it seemed as though maybe the slag was kind of rolling back down the groove that the plasma cutter was blowing through there, and kind of rolling back on the tip. So that's kind of why I think it was happening. But of course, here I'm trying to knock it all loose. I was hoping that the pins were clean enough to just slide them right on out with the machine, and just have the bucket drag off of the pins, but that was not the case. Not too bad. It just had to kind of clean up some burrs on the end of the pins, preventing the pin bosses. This one came off pretty easy, the one on the dipper. Just a few hits with the small ball peen hammer, and I knocked it right off. So that was pretty good. Now the pin came out pretty easily. The pin on the dipper, on the far side of the bucket from where I'm standing, that weld was actually cracked all the way around, and it's been like that for quite a while. So that pin was ready to come right out. That wasn't a problem at all. This one gave me a little trouble, mainly because of the fact that when I was cutting with the plasma cutter, I kind of intentionally was cutting sort of on an angle, and it's almost like making a bevel on a piece that I'm trying to knock out. Not really in a favorable direction, but I was trying to make sure that I didn't do any damage with heat and or sparks to any seals or anything on the H pin. Or I should say the H link is what I meant to say there. And it turns out there is a couple seals to hold grease in on the H-link. And I'm kind of glad I chose to be on the side of caution, because I'm sure I probably could have melted those pretty good. Not that it matters. I mean, I think all that stuff's going to have to come out now that I see how big of a difference in diameter the Kubota pins are to the ones that are in the bucket right now. 5 millimeters it's a bit more. I think it's maybe a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch overall. Yeah, here you can see the pins just they don't want to come out yet. So what I wound up doing, I'm measuring to see exactly how far off we are as far as the pin diameter. But I just wound up, cutting a little bit more of the end of those pins off and calling it good. All right, everybody, so here we are. I got it to the point where I needed to get it to. The pin sizes are obviously they're going to be bigger in diameter, and I knew it was going to be. I just wasn't sure to what extent. The only way to really know for sure was to get the bucket just taken off. So now I have some ideas as to how I'm going to navigate this situation. It's not really a best case scenario. So with bushings, typically they come with a exterior, like a seal, right? As if it was like a hub on a trailer axle or something. So you'll have a seal on both sides, basically to help, well, keep dust out and also to retain the grease over time, so it doesn't really gush out. Is that really that big of a deal? Well, no, it's really not, and as far as I'm concerned, because the majority of all these bushings up here on the excavator for all the cylinders, from my understanding, I don't even think they really have seals, so to speak, on the bushings, because typically you fill up the grease, or you grease the machine until you see the grease oozing out. The H-link here does not have a Zerk fitting. This does have a Zerk fitting, which has never worked. I don't know, maybe they did something on their own, they tried to make it work or what. I haven't looked at any other Deere excavators to see if they've got one there or not. But I know the H-link does not. I very well might actually take the H-link off, put this on the drill press, and maybe put my own Zerk fitting in here before the project is completed, just so that I can get some grease in there. And I may not, only because of the fact that the pins that came with this Kubota quick coupler, that's actually a Deere style wedge system, they already have Zerk fittings on the outside of both pins. So me putting a Zerk fitting in here may not really need to be a thing. We'll just have to see where the hole in the pin and the side of the pin protrudes. If it comes out somewhere where I think it's going to get good greasing, I probably won't do that. So as far as addressing the situation with the pin diameter, now this pin diameter, measured earlier this morning, I think it was like 30. I think it was like a 30 millimeter exterior, maybe a 35 millimeter pin diameter for the dipper, and this one is obviously the same. And the outside, the OD diameter of the bushing is 45. So, which is kind of odd. I only really see 50s. So 45 is what it is. So I gotta do one of two things. I either gotta get some Deere bushings for both the dipper and the H-link that are for this machine, and then have somebody machine the inside diameter of the bushing to 40 from 35 or whatever it was, and and give me the right size bushing. Or I could get a bushing that's the right size on the inside and have the outside turned down to accommodate the cavity that they're going to be hammered into. My personal thinking is I would rather do it that way, because any of the cross hatching or the little grooves inside the bushing, they're like a cross. Sometimes they're like an X, and that gives the grease somewhere for it to harbor and just kind of hang out in there, to always have a certain amount of grease in there. So I'd rather not get rid of the cross hatching in there. I'd rather turn the outside down. I'm sure
any of you machinists or folks who happen to be fortunate enough to have a small lathe and a milling machine understand exactly why I wouldn't want to do that. So this is where I got it to at this point. So now that I've got everything exposed, I'm getting much better measurements. Now I can confidently go to somebody and say, hey, you know, can we do this? These are dimensions I need, yay or nay, and then we'll move forward from there. But that's going to be it for now, and I'll catch you guys when I pick this back up.